That's why I'm going to try to make the orientation fairly succinct.
Oh, there's, hey, look who's here.
Who? You?
All right. Namaste. Welcome.
Who's here? Who
Well,
do you
good to see you all.
see? I see lots of people here.
All right. Well, welcome. This is the first day of our upcoming 6th day. So,
Fire and heart.
Fire and Heart. So
This
coming to
one's all
you.
about love and relationship, the gooey stuff. It is.
She's a sucker for that conversation. Anyway, it's one of her charms. Uh, coming to the comfort in your home. So really, there's no place for you to go but where you are. And being home is one of those kind of confirmations in your physical world that there's no place to go but where you are. So it's perfect. So I welcome you all. We're going to cover some of the structural, technical, overall frame of the vessel we're going to be creating today. Sachmayi will lead that whole first part. So I hand it over
Okay.
to the
We're gonna
lady
go
in
right
charge.
to it. All right. So we'll probably spend about the next 15 minutes lightly reviewing. And if you have any questions, you just raise your hand and Kathy will be able to will convey your question. So basically, we'll start with the schedule. I'm not going to go over it. You all should have your copy. And as we are basing this whole program this year on Central European summertime, you guys in Europe are the main program time. So everything is off of your timings. So all the West Coast people and the East Coast people, you have the schedule. If you have a question, you send an email to Natalie or to Kathy with your question. And everybody has those email addresses. She's like, no. Or who should I send it? Kathy's pointing to Jeffrey.
No,
A noob.
to the new Dharma audio visual.
New Dharma audio visual, right?
At gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Put that, go ahead and send that so everybody has that. Okay, so if there's any questions on the schedule, you let us know, okay? And if there's any technical questions, you will let us know. And that again, will all go to newdharma.audiovisual@gmail.com. Okay, so the next piece we're going to go over with a little bit more detail is, I renamed it, Guidelines to Support You Creating the Most Valuable at-Home Retreat Experience. Normally, we've been doing this person to person, face to face. This is our second retreat. The first one was right when we got back from India and we did a 9-day and we put the whole thing online and really was, let's see what works. Let's see if this even does work. And people wrote back and said they had an amazing experience, partially because they were in their own home or in a space that they were comfortable in. They didn't have to fly thousands of miles to get here, even though I know people do like to be in Satri's presence. And it was many of you are in your home. So this is giving you an opportunity to integrate everything that is happening through this retreat with your day-to-day life. Instead of waiting to go home, this way, it's right there in front of you at all times.
Happening together.
Happening together. Okay. The following guidelines for the retreat are meant to assist you with holding the integrity of this vessel or container so the intent of this program can be realized. So all of us together are creating this container, each individually and collectively. So we ask that you please observe the following guidelines. Now, some of these, we sent this to you early so you could set your space up, but we'll just review it. Set up a location in your home where you will be undisturbed. Now, I know sometimes we see the kitty cat walking along the sofa. Try to not have that happen for this particular program because it's a little bit more intense. And if the kitty gets in, the kitty gets in. But we ask that you try to be undisturbed. And I like kitties.
But it applies to dogs too,
Oh, okay, dogs too.
and unwanted relatives.
Okay, take into consideration your location to avoid backlighting. So what happens oftentimes if you're sitting behind a window and it's the wrong time of the day, you literally don't exist in your chair and we can't see you. So just you want to be able to pay attention to that so that the facilitator, so Shree or the facilitator can see and hear you during these, when we're working together during the interactive periods. If you're using a phone to connect to Zoom, the phone needs to be stabilized on a solid surface to avoid disrupting the visual field. Why was that? You told me, but I don't remember.
A table or a
So
mount.
why would it need to be stabilized?
Because then when you're moving around, we all watch you move around. Okay.
Oh, so he's saying that the picture needs to be stabilized. We got
Exactly.
it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any problems or questions involving the broadcast itself need to be emailed to newdharma.audiovisual@gmail.com, which is right there in your paper, and they will respond as soon as possible. So right now they're all sitting behind the screen, but everybody's pretty good about accessing their emails because I want you to have the best experience that we could possibly provide for you. Okay, there are also on your schedule are 2 small group online breakout groups during the retreat. We ask that you review the schedule, which I'm sure you have done, but we ask that you show up online at least 10 minutes prior to each session, just so, you know, if there's any technical glitches, it gets you in your chair, it helps you stabilize your space and yourself. And we ask that you please put yourself on mute during broadcast time. You will be directed when to unmute yourself remotely for interactions with Shree or for your breakout groups. Okay, so if you have any questions about this, just do the hand raise and Kathy will get you. Somebody asked a question.
Yes, they wanted to know about listening to music during the retreat.
Not during these interactive sessions
Or the silent sittings.
or the silent sittings.
Yes. So in between those sessions, you're free to listen
Yes.
to music.
Thank you. Those are good questions. All right, other guidelines. So we ask that you remain silent at all times during the retreat, except that during small group meetings or Shree interactions where we encourage you to speak. Honor what you are trying to create for yourself during this retreat. Remain inwardly silent and outwardly quiet as possible. Now, I know some of you are probably living in family homes, so you just need to, just be qualified silence. Just do the best you can.
It's a matter of actually being aware inwardly. So the idea of being 60% inwardly aware and 40% outwardly aware would probably protect the momentum of the program. So that inwardness, to hold on to that where otherwise you get outward, is really maybe the art of really getting the best value out of this program.
Okay. Notice your reactions, feelings, and thoughts during the 6th day. Record these along with any insights, revelations, or realizations. You're really doing this for yourself so that you can go back. I mean, Shree has kept I think hundreds of journals. He says it's not that many, but he has boxes of journals. So he has journaled his way through his entire awakening. And I think you still journal, not as much, but you still do journal. Well, so this is a way for you to go back after this is over with, or maybe in a week or two when you're not feeling as connected as you were. And oftentimes by reading your experience, you will reconnect to that energy of that moment. So it's a way of a remembrance. Except for the use of your computer to access the broadcasts, we ask that you do not use any electronic devices during the duration of the retreat. Kindle use is okay. And Shree just said music's okay. So there's so many different ways people listen to music. I just leave it to your discretion.
The thing with the Kindle use is that just for being able to access spiritual reading or referencing other teachings that support your understanding of what's happening, not for just entertainment purposes. But the idea is you do during the retreat want to pull away from the outer world and not keep that doorway open so you can be established with what is occurring within you and not as invested as you may be nor ordinarily in what's going on around you in the outer world. Okay.
We ask that you can conduct no other spiritual practices during the silent sittings, such as mantras or prayers without Satri's request approval. He may have given you a mantra or a chant, whatever. That is perfectly fine.
Yeah, any technique that we use here or that you've learned from your time in New Dharma is perfectly fine during this program, but not in the silent sittings. That's all. That's the only condition.
Okay, and then we ask that you do not fast during the retreat and that there is no sex, smoking, drugs, or alcohol. Are there any questions? No hands? Okay. The second page is about the silent sitting. So did you want to speak about this? Because this is your bailiwick.
So
Just the
silent
first part.
sitting, I will just read this part then, and then if I have some comments,
read the-
otherwise I'll leave you to
Okay.
read that. Silent sitting is not necessarily meditation. It's not about having a state. It is a conscious effort to be still and silent, outwardly and inwardly. There'll be 3 silent sittings each day
Of 1.5 hours.
of 1.5 hours. You missed that.
I thought
Not
I
2
caught that
hours.
one.
And then the following are the guidelines. The nature of the silent sitting, for those of you who may not be
Okay, I
as
have that one.
oriented, is literally to sit and outwardly be still and not speak. So that is the first criteria. It not much more. Whatever happens to you in that process, if you go out or if you have events rise up, that's all consistent with what needs to show up during the course of this retreat. So it isn't about you entering into a state, though that may very well happen. It is not about you being comfortable being silent and still, because that will not happen at times. So, but it is the process of when we physically commit ourselves to restrain the inclinations to be other than silent and still, then we empower and make sacred that process of silent sitting. And now she'll give some directions on how to address
Okay.
the opportunity of that.
So we ask you do not leave the online retreat during the silent sitting. So we ask that you, when you start, you begin and you end in that 1.5 hours sitting in your chair or on your bed or whatever you're doing. You may leave the broadcast after Satri has left. This is just part of holding the integrity of the container. Silence and stillness are interrelated. It is best to move as little as possible as it helps the silence build within. It also avoids disturbing others on the broadcast. If they're on mute, that shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Again, it's just a matter of disappearing from the screen.
Yeah, well, not during the silent sittings. Just prepare yourself to sit the whole 1.5 hours.
Yeah, because you must know that I'm attending to all of you who are on the screen. So I'm the one that notices when you leave or when you turn around to walk across the room and get a pillow and sit so you can be more comfortable.
That's okay during the
So
talk.
the nature here is that we're trying to create, and other people are seeing you do this. So the idea of the visual field, not everybody's going to be paying attention to you, but the principle of that is to support you in being still, because it's not natural for us human beings. And the restraining of that and choosing to be still rather than whatever the impulse that's arising allows for a building of the quality that brings forward the transformation that we're looking to bring forward in you.
Okay, so we're still on the silent sitting. For the silent sitting, you can sit on the chair, on the floors, wherever you're comfortable, a couch. You can recline, but no laying down. Be comfortable, but not so comfortable that you fall asleep. The nice thing about being in your own home is we always have this one that comes up. Well, what if somebody's snoring, which always happens? And this way, if it's you, well, then you know who it is. You're not going to be.
Yeah, and if you catch yourself snoring, you're in a pretty deep state.
Yes,
So.
that's a good thing. So don't be embarrassed or ashamed. Just think to yourself, I am in a very strong state. And Satri told me that. Okay. No leaving to go to the bathroom during the silent set unless you have a health problem. And if you do, please communicate that to us so that Satri knows that's why you're getting up and leaving. But we ask that you just regulate your coffee intake or tea or whatever so that you can make it through an hour and a half sit. Try not to fall asleep. It's not always possible, but it's best not to sleep. And sometimes you don't know that if you are or not. Just don't worry about it.
I'm kind of ambivalent about this particular suggestion, part because I notice that when people go to sleep, when they're out of the way, the energy is more effective. So, but if you really actually go to sleep into the human sleep, then it will block the transmission and obscure your body's ability to receive it.
Well,
You
not
can't
really-
always know the
you're not
difference,
in control of that.
but if you can catch yourself snoring, you're in the right state.
Yes. Oh, yeah. If you're snoring, you're in the right state. Okay, I got it.
It's yoga nidra, right?
I'm going to wear a t-shirt. Okay. Avoid alcohol or caffeinated drinks. No drugs except those prescribed. Avoid distractions during the sit. Stay focused on what is happening inwardly. So all of this is about the silent sit. Are there any questions? And you can ask questions later, not just now. Okay, we have something that we call silent sitting exercises. The following are recommended exercises to practice during each sitting. So we ask that you be aware of your breath. Be aware of the energy in your body. Be here now, the present moment. Notice what resists being present. Notice blocks, resistances, pressure, pain, etc. Identify where they are in your body. Put your attention on that location, feeling into the experience until it speaks to you or it fades. Notice what is going on in your body. Try to identify its source. Hint, its origin is not outside of yourself. Afterwards, record your insights. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Orientation is complete,
Thank you,
thank
my
you.
dear. It's not completely complete.
but it's
but
complete.
I'm going to speak a little bit about what we're co-creating together. So the important thing is that we are alert to the fact that we are part of a process of creating a vessel. We absolutely can be done even if we're not in the physical space. This creating of a vessel is done when you honor the guidelines, when you honor your commitment for coming here, for participating, the purpose that's living you, that motivated you to be here. So the way we make that sacred is by following the structure, honoring the structure, as showing up 10 minutes before, being silent and still as part of your intent, to be able to be in this poise, place of poise, committed, alert poise during these 6 days, to allow the universe to start showing up in you in a way that was not possible in your normal life. And that we create this together, because I know what it is, and many of you know what it is that comes in is beyond what we normally have access to. When we access our human power, there are 60 of you participating actively, another 30 joining with the talks afterwards, that there becomes a certain kind of quantum of capacity to bring a new consciousness into us. And this consciousness is going to work on our systems. And part of being aware, as we'll speak later, about your body and your embodiment, to be inward in that process and listening from a different place than where we listen to with our intellect and our mind, or even our normal emotional nature, but to listen at the very level of our physical embodiment, we begin to see or access what the universe is trying to show us. The quality of us that can perceive and experience what's hidden, the quality of us that can recover its original nature, will rise up in the space of this common intent that we share. So I call up on that part of you that has the authority to commit to this. Because that part of you that's ready to commit is also ready to make sacred, to sacrifice what else you might be doing in order to honor this cauldron, this vessel that we're building, a fire and an expansion of the heart, this ability to access that divine potential that's not just in our awareness, but it's in our embodiment, it's in our heart, it's in our complete being. And that recognition, that development of that capacity to be in existence purposely for at least these 6 days will empower you in a way that we can't know now. It will strengthen your ability to discern and to be present with the fact that the universe is always trying to show you what it is you are in truth and what is your purpose in life. And that with that, to bring this into your life is what this is. So it's a training. It is making sacred. It's also honoring the truth of us, not what our negative self-story comes up with, like I'm not worth it, or it doesn't matter, or so what, and you know, I don't like structure. No, those things are just mental concepts or emotional reactive patterns. We're talking about you creating a new way to be that can sustain the true freedom and independence that your ego is always looking for, but a freedom and independence that lies from within you, not outside of you. So our opportunity is to join together in a shared commitment, a shared willing sacrifice, and that everything that rises up that resists that becomes an offering into the fire of that sacrifice, to burn out those inclinations that keep distorting us from being able to access the nature of what we are in truth as a piece, as expression of the supreme intelligence of consciousness, as well as that unbounded capacity to be in existence in the field that we swim in all the time and take for granted of divine love. This waking up is not just an event in awareness, it's an experience. And that's the focus of this program, is to expand your ability to be in the experience of the very substance of this physical existence. Because it's this access point is where we become the channel and the instrument for the purpose of creation to manifest. It's opening us up in ways that we can't do just through our intelligence. We can't just do it through our discipline. We can't just do it with our belief system or ideas of what I need to do, the shoulds and shouldn'ts. We need to access a greater resource that is available to us that we aren't normally alert to, that we will be able to feel and recognize through that embodied experience how supported we are already, and to be able to tap into that resource with our conscious self. The real essence of this is to talk about that whole quality of the spiritual path we call devotion. Devotion by itself, of course, is an emotional event. It's a physical emotional event, but with intelligent discrimination, it becomes a powerful integrative capacity that brings us into the fullness of what we carry the potential to be as instruments and channels for the purpose of serving not just ourselves, but the world. And because the forces are so vigorously at work at this time, all we really need to do is to align ourselves with the current of what's already happening in us, to be able to attend to what's actually happening, but at the level of our embodiment, not just at the level of our awareness. Because both of those together is what's needed in order to manifest. One without the other, devotion without knowledge, is not capable of the manifestation because of the challenges and the demand that inevitably come that overtake the emotional body. Nor the path of knowledge, jnana, is not sufficient because it is not able by itself to embody. So it is able to know itself, but not to bring it into the person. And the other, the path of devotion, brings it into the person, but maybe not into the universe. So it's those two together, combined with the third principle of the three paths of the path of devotion, the path of knowledge, the path of action. So when we take actions aligned with expanding of that capacity that devotion is, which we'll be focusing on in this retreat, we empower that principle within us. It becomes more real. Devotion becomes more powerful when we sacrifice that which is habituated to our old emotional patterns and reactions, our old usual getting for ourselves and holding on to what we have. We open up to allowing the universe to give and take as it will for the unfolding of that divine possibility it is trying to manifest in us. And the path of knowledge. Knowledge does not become real unless we act on it. Unless we catch ourselves in a pattern that does not serve the unfolding of this purpose and restrain it to withdraw our consent from that structure, that negative story, that reaction pattern, that projection, that wanting it to be different than it is. That part is then choosing to be able to hold what is arising without acting on it. So there's two paths that these are two types of action that fit. One is the action aligned with knowledge, which is called the path of sannyasi, of withdrawing our consent, our desire, our want, our reactivity from having its expression. And the other is the action called tyaga. This is the path of one in devotion, the one who serves the world with no agenda, no declaring an outcome. So it's the sannyasi and the tyaga. And you'll find these terms in the Gita coming to their completion in the 18th chapter, where we are in an act of coming into existence through the devotion and including life as it's showing up without an investment, with it being this way or that way. And then the sannyasi, the path of knowledge, which is we withdraw the consent of that part of us that is still oriented to wanting something or getting something or changing something from the outer world and choosing to be within the truth of its own authority. So this is what is the nature of our journey. This is the nature of the teaching. This is the eternal path. These are the principles behind it. We're going to focus here in this 6 day on this path of taiga, this path of devotion, the path of love, and to discover extraordinary truth, transformative power, when we're able to awaken within us that devotional embodied capacity of this divinity that we are. And it starts from the heart. But what you're going to have to bring with you on this trip, on this journey, these next 6 days, is also the knowledge, your awareness. Your awareness does not need embodiment to be aware. It will only become embodied when we take the awareness and choose to embody it. So for those of you who the awareness is stronger, the principle then is to choose to enter into your body and to access your heart, to access your embodiment from that place, to bring it down deeply into your physical form so that it actually can root itself through that umbilical that your body has with the world mother. And with the heart, what we want to do with the heart is not let it go horizontal into our current circumstances, but rather direct it upward towards that truth that lies above. To access that greater love, that powerful transformative love that comes when we attend to the object of attention. That's greater, our access point to the Supreme Being. It could be the Divine Mother. It could be Krishna. It could be me. It could be that principle that lifts you as a human into a higher state of relationship than that which you could access in your normal course of what you have come to or what you have been able to live in your human life. Because divine love will transform and enhance your capacity for human love, for the love of life, for the love of all existence. It'll expand it out of the need structure and the clinging, the wants, the fears of our human programming, and expand it into a more universal love, a larger love, where the world then is welcome instead of trying to control, resist, or obscure it. This brings us, our body, our capacity for being in a relationship, it brings a quality of strength for enduring the process of our undoing. It gives us a determinate will to be able to progress into relationship with that unfolding opportunity of the reality that's so far beyond us we can't imagine we could have a relationship with it. And in the process, we discover the true relationship. The one principle where these two principles within us come together. And you may notice this in the events that occur for you, because there is a force that will be descending that comes from the field of the Supreme. And there'll be a force that'll be awakening that comes from both your heart, from your psychic being, but also from your body, as the forces of matter, of the Kundalini Shakti, start coming up to meet the descending force of the Supreme. So this is the Sat and the Asat coming together in us. These two principles coming together can only come together within each of us. It is the ultimate fulfillment, the ultimate relationship that takes us beyond any other form of relationship. When these two come together within us, we become the source of unconditional love. We become the means by which divine love comes into the world. Truth can only manifest in the collaboration of our human form, our humanity. It's when these two come together that the divine love comes into existence. Truth manifest is love, true love, unconditional love. Love without any expectation, without any need for reciprocation. It is an artesian well of loving that comes out of that very union that you found within yourself, that without any effort on your part goes out to all who can connect to you. And you become the channel of that divine love. You become the means for that divine love to come in and heal and expand our capacity to be with others and others' capacity to be with you and with each other. This is my realization. This is what I'm doing now. This is what many of you are learning to do, to expand out of the small little boundary of your capacity to be, because a direct relationship with being and loving, a direct relationship with that which we can be with and that which we can love. So we're going to be discovering not only that capacity, but we're also discovering that in us which is resisting, that does not yet know to let go, that does not know to surrender, does not know that it can surrender, does not know that it's safe to surrender, does not know how to surrender without being overtaken. So this is what we're going to speak of. We're going to direct. We're going to try to empower within you as the intent behind whatever may arise. Everything that arises in this space is going to be an opportunity for you to discover this integration of truth and love within your own system. The meeting of these principles in new ways and at deeper levels than would have been possible outside. So it is our sacred temple. We're creating a place in the virtual world beyond space and time, in fact, by which this can occur and become taken home into your life. It'll happen during the course of the program. It'll happen after the program. It's probably happened to some of you before you came here. So that the opportunity, you can begin to recontextualize what is happening that would be what you would normally think is normal, and begin to see the fundamental structures that have been shaping that normal that has prevented it from being more than it is. So the invitation is to become abnormal. It's because something not normal. Because that's actually what we all long for, to come out of that normalities. Not just the contraction and the suffering, but the quiet despair of normal. The unfulfilled emptiness of normal. The dissatisfaction of the normal that's trying to avoid experiencing dissatisfaction or the despair. Okay, so let's just take a minute. I'd just like you to kind of organize yourself with this intent. Kind of bring it into your body, bring it into, notice how your system is responding to this invitation. And then let's just hold it for a few minutes, and then we'll go on to the materials. You'll begin to get a taste of what we're talking about. All right, welcome back. So there's your access point. For those of you who can feel this, what are you feeling? You're feeling our relationship. You're feeling your connection to this form, as well as your own truth, your own divine reality, for those who can access that. The uniqueness of having an embodied realized being is they can make accessible to you that supreme state, make it more tangibly available in a way that can empower you. Now, it's probably been the largest challenge on this journey for me is to be responsible for being that channel, is to be able to hold the sacredness of the opportunity of our relationship, to look to use this gift as a means of empowering you to have that gift be yours. But how do you have love yours? How do you have this substance of your own existence and that possibility of manifesting? Is by feeling the relationship that's already there, by tapping into the substance of your very essential being that's both within you and all about you. That's not just awareness. It is love, boundless, felt, tangible, real, the very love that comes from the Supreme itself as it comes into existence in all its forms, but especially in us, because we're the most dear to that supreme principle of all its beings, because we can become that. We can live in that space. We can discover that potentiality in our own experience, and as individuals, come to responsibility for what we're becoming as a means of serving the world. It is this love that brings the integrated transformation that allows for true embodiment. Because the miracle of existence is that we physically exist in our bodies with the intelligence to know we are a person, and with the beingness that is able to align with the current of the unfolding of this physical and all the other dimensions that are supporting the physical evolution. It's not an abstraction. When we understand something and when we experience something, even in our human life, it becomes more real. When we can feel this divine love, we are knowing our eternal principle more deeply, more fully, more really. And we discover that we are ourselves, the means by which the universe can manifest, that the cosmic supreme being can manifest. And all our petty, small, shallow, narrow adaptations, survival strategies, compensating structures fall away as insignificant, spontaneously, without any effort on our part, as we surrender to the process that comes out of this commitment on your part and our relationship on my part. This is the true marriage that goes beyond all marriages. This is the ultimate relationship in the physical domain, is the relationship with the realized teacher. That ability to surrender to a form is more powerful than the ability to surrender to a force, because surrendering to the form requires a deeper integration to all that in us that has been shaped by the conditioning of all our previous relationships. Mom, dad, siblings, teachers, authority figures, others. And in that process, we become the embodiment of the opportunity of our relationship. It happened for me with Mara Baba. It happened for me with my teacher, Shree. And I recognized and could surrender and honor the sacredness of that relationship. To could bow to it as always a showing of what was still left in me in being able to be in a true relationship with all the rest of existence. So this is about love. This unique kind of divine love that comes through a form that has realized the truth of their purpose and has only one imperative: to make you him or her. Because I'm neither and I'm both. And so are you. And that's the invitation. And that's our opportunity together. Can you feel that? Can you notice the resistances that may be coming up? Can you feel the magnificence of what this possibility is? I certainly can. As I look at each of you, I feel myself in an intimate connection, even with those of you I barely know on the physical plane. It's not something I do. It's because what I am is you. And what you are is me. And true love is always that recognition of that in each other. And the experience of that is the fulfillment of the purpose of existence. To be able to live in that state, we become automatically, without a great deal of effort, channels and instruments of that divine principles. So if you feel vulnerable, if you feel exposed, feel naked, get used to it. This dropping away of all those things that separate us not only from our relationship, but from all other relationships, from existence itself. That's the invitation. But we start from what is accessible to us. So right now I'm pointing to what you actually already are. Your job is to discover this for yourself in your own experience, not just in your awareness, in an embodied, lived way. And we're going to talk about that in this program. It's going to be some practical direction about how, when you're not in the immediacy of the relationship, how you can actually live as a way of expanding yourself more and more into the immediacy of this possibility we're pointing to. There is nothing more important in your life than this. The rest of life can get value and importance when you find this. But otherwise, outer life is meaningless. It's just a shallow repetition of the same version of what we've been habituated to without this. Without love, we don't fulfill the reason we have bodies. Without love, we can't make truth real. We can't fulfill the purpose of our birth. We can't appreciate the sacredness of this miraculous unfolding evolutionary creation that we're in the midst of. When we surrender to this, we discover this capacity to commit, to stay with the process, to go beyond our little self with its objections and resistances and its doubts and its confusions, and move into a lived way relationship with existence, that everything that arises becomes an opportunity to further the embodiment of what we're speaking of. Dissolving the barriers that have separated us, especially in this modern age. Empowering us to know our own truth in a way that allows others to be just as they are, without needing to change anybody, but rather be the means by which the universe empowers them to discover what is needed for them to fulfill their purpose, whatever that may be, wherever they are on the journey. But for those who are spiritually awakened, like all of you have one purpose, and this is it. Everything else is secondary. It can support it through that secondary function or that tertiary function. But the important thing is your ability to continue to expand into your relationship with existence in a willingness to include, not exclude. And that which you include, learning to hold it without acting on it, so it can be transmuted into a higher expression of itself, at least within you, if you can't do it for them outwardly. In this way, we shift our capacity to come into existence without requiring existence to be any different than it is. As a matter of fact, in that process, you discover the perfection of the existence as it is. Okay, now we're going to bring this down. All right, we're going to consciously choose to bring this down. We're going to bring it into the content. This is what we do. We don't just live here. We make it, bring it in. We make it real. So we're going to talk about this in this, tiny little structures of language, right? Tiny little structures of concepts. Why? Because the part that is vested in language and concepts needs to get transformed. It needs to get informed to be able to transform. So we need to understand, get right information at the level of this part of us as well. To understand the nature of what's happening and what's going on. Then our intelligence, our mind can be the collaborator. It can remember and it can carry forward recognitions of what we remember into our lived life. So we want this part of us to become the collaborator with this process as well. Secondary to the main ability to access experience, but as an instrument, as a means that we all carry to bring that awareness in a practical way so that it can deal with the practicality of our lived life right there where you are now. Okay, so Satsangs is going to read.
And Shree will comment.
And I will inevitably comment on this
Introduction, the fire of love. Is that what you have there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I have.
I guess he's ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Love is the delight of consciousness as it interacts with existence. It is the fire that awakens when the heart opens. This fire is the truth of consciousness, and love is the experience one feels when it manifests. Okay.
Well, hang on.
In spiritual parlance, this love is called Ananda, the delight of being. Ananda is the ability of consciousness to experience, learn, and grow as it interplays with existence. Our own self-awareness is due to this interplay of consciousness with our body. In its purity, the human body is a vessel of pure delight. Consciousness comes into existence to experience this delight. In the human body, consciousness wakes up. This is what allows us to know we are alive, to have an identity, and to learn, grow, and connect to others, to discover the nature of ourselves and this world we live in.
This is the truth. This is how it is. That which exists prior to the existence, the sought, all it wanted to do was exist. Why did it want to exist? So it could know it existed, right? So am I? And the only way it can know it exists is when it experiences existence. And that experience is Ananda. It is this feeling, this transmission, this relational principle with that which is beyond existence and existence itself, between the Sat and the Asat, between spirit and matter, between the feminine principle and the masculine principle. It is this imperative, this longing, this need to exist and to be in the experiential relationship of existence is the purpose that we're acting out, we're living. That's living everything. It is all based on the desire to experience its own existence. And that is always going to come down to that distilled love. Initially, it's just, look what everything that is living does. It eats. It eats something outside of itself so it can merge with that. And by eating it and digesting it, it becomes that. The fulfillment of eating is because it's a small reflection of this vast principle of the Sat coming to the Asat to be able to experience its own existence. And look at the whole thing with survival. Why is there such an imperative to survive? So it can stay in the opportunity to experience its own existence. This will to be is fulfilled in the experience we call Ananda. It is love, love, love everywhere, in every plane of condition. It is the love itself, or the trying to hang on or preserve that love. That is the structure of the dynamics of all possible relationships of existence. That love also then creates the principle of the destruction of love as the parent or immediate needs of being able to have greater love. That which destroys the past, so some other version of loving can come into existence. But that gets destroyed, so it can learn to come into existence in a new form, in a new species, in a new possibility. So it can love more fully, more complexly, more into that huge multiplicity that creates the miracle of creation is.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
See, we put this into words. It works, right?
In general, love is a greatly misunderstood word.
Yeah.
There is a fundamental difference between the experience of human love and that of spiritual love. The key characteristics of human love is that it is conditional, whereas spiritual love is unconditional. Human love is distorted or conditioned by biology, sex, emotions, and mind. As such, it suffers all the associated distortions, including lust, infatuation, attachment, clinging, submission, domination, control, jealousy, betrayal, hatred, and vengeance. Spiritual love, on the other hand, is a spontaneous and freely given expression of the divinity that lives within each of us and has no expectations, requirements, or conditions.
Okay. So recognizing the difference, because just think of it. If in the course of your life, you have been and fallen in love, right? Fallen in love, right? You lost control and you love, even though you can't control it, right? That infatuation, that kind of enthrallment that comes, right? That human love is in its essence true. It's only what we do with that human love that's untrue. If we can be in the infatuation, but never get invested in that which we're infatuated with, we can begin to get a sense of the depths of the fulfillment of coming into existence fully with at least one other. But when we make, in the structure of our conditioning, we're going to make one other the object of our love. That's because the human system can't love more. The best it can do is maybe love one other. And in the process of loving, it discovers experience of love in itself. You ever watch two lovers, you notice what they do? They're so attractive because they're radiating this loving they're discovering with each other, with everyone. It's like suddenly you found this wonderful person of your life and then everybody else starts becoming more beautiful. The nature of infatuation is it's like an altered state of consciousness, but it quickly gets overtaken by our need or want, our conditionings, our fear, our habit of not being good enough, the foundational structures of shame around our sexuality, or the conditioning of being born as a woman or even as a man, and that whole dynamics that come in, and you lost the opportunity. But if you could stay, I mean, if you look at Tantra, sex Tantra, it is about staying in the intensity of both the biological and the emotional intimacy that's occurring, and to be in that cauldron, which actually begins to open up our capacity to hold divine love in the paradox of the need for the fulfillment and not being fulfilled. Because what would need to be fulfilled is that which does not yet know itself as love. So the principle we're looking here is already here. It's not an abstraction. Anytime you see something beautiful, you see a flower and you say, oh, lovely. What is that? That's Ananda. That's a recognition of the another. What you don't know is that the flower loves that I'm touching it. Is the flower loves that I'm seeing it, even if it's just briefly. It can't hold it. It can't become an object of love itself. It can become an object of beauty. It can become itself. And there's someone then appreciating itself. And if you look at a child, what does a child want? It just wants attention. It just wants to be seen. It just wants to be confirmed that exists by another. And that for a child is love, just as for the flower. And as it becomes more complex, it wants more. But that's the first thing, is that we bring this condition that opens the space for love through our attention, what we attend to. Now, it can also bring forward that which is in the way of love, right? They don't love me. I'm not good enough. My shame, they're so special, or they're so miserable. How could I ever want to be with that person? All that is what's between you and the love with that person that still is taking it personally, still got an investment, still has preferences, still wants it to be a way other than the way it is. So it can be compatible with you. I mean, even our food, we pick food to eat that's compatible with us. We choose that which we're attracted to. That is limiting, and it's inherent in the limitation of being embodied. It's not our fault, but it is something that we need to recognize and learn how to go beyond the boundary. And if you look at Tantra, well, the secret of Tantra is to learn how to be with that which you don't want to know, with that which you don't want to be with. So start eating the food you don't want to eat. Start attending to the weeds in the ground and honoring their unique expression. This ability to expand into the area of life that we didn't allow or didn't know how to be with, and therefore did not attend to. But that capacity also comes up to the depths of our conditioning, to the depths of ourself, all those parts of ourself we haven't been in relationship with, that we haven't attended to, that we haven't been willing to be as it is, haven't been willing to learn how to discover the hidden Ananda that's trapped in the pain and the fear and the shame, so that it can be freed and return to its original substance, its original nature. Okay.
Okay.
Continue.
When the fire of consciousness awakens in us, it sets in motion a transformational process that opens and purifies our heart, converting our human heart into a means of unconditional love to manifest into the creation. This experience is devotion. It impacts all parts of our system, healing, dissolving, and expanding us into a divine being. This is divine manifestation.
The principle to understand here is that the universe wants to merge with us. It wants to know us, each of us, deeply, fully, intimately. It is a lover waiting to be attended to. It is waiting for our attention so it can come into existence for us, but also for it. So learning how to recognize that the principle of everything that's occurring in your life is the universe trying to show you what separates you from it. also trying to show you what it is itself. And in the process, perhaps for you to meet your own incapacities to be with that. How difficult it is to be with someone who loves us so focusedly. You know, I know in my own system, when someone comes out at me with that intensity of devotion that draws on need, I have to step back a bit because it's still the need that's seeking the relationship, not the being. So this intermingling of the ego with the call of the being becomes a problem if the person can't be in enough self-awareness to recognize that part of themselves. This is why I don't want devotees. What I want is beings who are capable of becoming that which is worthy of devotion. But that principle of that initially is to teach the new lover how to love more deeply, to understand the nature of mature love, of the self-giving, of the making sacred, of the process of becoming worthy for that which is the object of your devotion. And this process happens automatically. It is physical transformation. It transforms the biochemistry of the body. It transforms the electrical field. It transforms the musculature. It creates this whole body process by which we, in our embodiment, not just in our awareness, can become an instrument and channel for that divine love in existence. And the tangible reality of the felt sense of that substance of your existence makes it real, gives you faith, it gives you strength, it gives you determination, a willingness to commit, to throw yourself into the fire of your own transformational process, to include it, not exclude it or control it. It's an expanding of our capacity to be with what is happening once we've awakened and we've tuned ourselves in to this current of divine love. Okay, let's continue.
Okay. On the spiritual path, unconditional love is the highest expression of our divine potential. Its powerful radiance impacts one who experiences its presence. This radiant force nurtures and empowers the divine present inherent in each of us, giving us the strength and clarity to overcome the obstacles and challenges of the spiritual path. Unconditional love is irresistible and greatly aids the difficult transformative process necessary for one to progress on the spiritual path.
All right, so let's understand the basic principle of divine love. To feel divine love, to feel the devotion is evidence of your own ability to be divine love. So the art of the path of love is to attend to your own capacity to feel the devotion. As a matter of fact, the path of love is to focus specifically on the devotion, become mindless, idiot, become a fool, become vulnerable, to let the universe do whatever it will, to surrender utterly. That's where it takes us. And in the process, it dissolves without any effort on our part, but to continue to feel the love. All that's that separates us from love. Love itself engenders, nurtures greater love. The feeling of Ananda, the devotion, itself becomes a proof in our own experience of that divine principle within us. And also evidence of what might still be resisting or afraid of it or not able to accept it or tolerate it. Because that's initially what's happening. It's like we're like a thimble and the ocean of love is coming. The thimble doesn't know how to hold an ocean. It gets lost in the ocean. But what we're looking on is create a thimble into a cup, and the cup into a bowl into a bucket into a pond into a lake into the ocean itself. This process of transformation will continue to expand our ability to hold the experience of this manifesting principle that is the foundation of the whole creation. Ultimately, we become another channel. We become plumbing for that force to come into existence through us. And we willingly do this. We willingly hold the vessel for that to come. And in the process, the vessel keeps expanding depending upon the need. It becomes a more and more capable channel. And what you get to do is experience the universe through you, manifesting itself in the world. So it's an automatically occurring transformational process, which just requires you to get out of the way.
Mhm.
Simple, clear, get out of the way. The universe will do this. Every time you notice a resistance, it's too much, relax, open up. Become more plastic. Instead of rigid, become plastic. Become useless if it needs to be. Become mindless and foolish. Become an idiot, and all you want to do is be in the love of your divinity. That's the opportunity of this path. And you can notice right now how you're experiencing this as I'm speaking. You're going to be inspired to it and repulsed by it. That's very human. It doesn't know how to be with love because it's not conditioned that way. It's conditioned to stay separate, stay organized as a person and not merge in the ocean of everything. So it is necessary that we're in this struggle between having it and not having it, resisting it and choosing to be willing to have it come in. So this requires a kind of faith that takes us beyond our human programming, takes us beyond our separative existence as a man or a woman or what's happened in the past or what could happen in the future for you. It opens up a doorway of a whole nother reality than the one you couldn't know before. And what's the advantage of this path over the path of awareness? Path of awareness, it has to know every little detail. It has to meet every single resistance and struggle with that resistance in order to relax it enough so that it can be more in existence. But truth, the path of awareness, the reason it does it is so that it can have more access to love, even though it may not know that. It just knows it's not so suffering. It just knows it's a little easier to be alive. But this path, this is juicy. This is the meal. This is the evidence, the fullness of what it means to be awakened. All right, there you go. Let's go on.
Okay. There are three forces that transform us from human beings into divine beings. They are truth, consciousness, and love. Truth destroys untruth. Consciousness destroys ignorance. This is the transformative power of truth consciousness. But unconditional love dissolves all separation and barriers. Without the radiant presence of unconditional love, the spiritual path is difficult and demanding as our ego resists and rebels. But the ego surrenders all to unconditional love. This is its magic. With just a touch of this unconditional love, we find the strength to let go and surrender, allowing the force of truth consciousness to enter and undo all that separates us from divine.
The interplay between our awareness and our experience is that the awareness actually is the part of us that can make our experience real. So when we can know what our experience is, the two merge into a realization, a capacity to create new realities, to be able to discover the secrets of existence and the purpose of existence in your own experience, as well as in your own recognition, revelation, and realization. It becomes full, and we become capable We become useful to the world, to the universe, in fact, out of that integration of those two principles, this truth consciousness that is now very available to the world and its embodiment in our experience. And the play between the greater truth consciousness, being able to be aware that really the end game, the payoff is Ananda. It's this love. This is why we do it. If you look at anything in life, you're doing it because the payoff is a piece or an aspect of this principle we're calling divine love. It's, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm here now, fully in the immediacy of this. All right, this is my realization. I'm speaking not as a, accounting other people's tale about what this is. I'm telling you, this is a real thing. This is not an abstraction. The only requirement is to become aware of this possibility within yourself and start organizing your inner and outer life aligned with that possibility. And what is the secret of expanding your ability to be in his existence this way? Is to love, and to love, and to love, and to love, and expand our ability to include all in our love. Love more, love painfully, love in anguish, love in pain, love in joy, love in sorrow and separation, love in the chaos, love in all of it. That quality of being able to hold it all is what brings the polarities together into a harmonious fulfillment of its own existence. This requires action. And you'll discover as we go into this program that there are actions that we can take using our awareness to move into collaboration with the unfolding of this capacity to love within ourselves. And this is our focus. Making it real. Are you willing? What in you isn't willing? That's just as equally a good question. You don't need to know how to do this. That's the great thing about this. You don't need to know. You can put your head on the shelf and just let your experience. And trust. Have faith. And the faith will grow in those first small steps, and for every subsequent steps, as we align ourselves with these actions, when our actions align with the manifestation of love and self, in love within ourselves, we discover more and more capacity to take the actions that bring more and more love into ourselves. So that is not rocket science. What we attend to and what we act on feed a possibility. Could it be negative or could it be positive? But this possibility is the reason you were born, not the negativity. The negativity is simply the error because there wasn't enough clarity. The forms were not developed enough. The circumstances could not allow for it. But they can now. In this precious period of time we're now living. There was never anything more powerful than now. But it's taking a peril, a worldwide crisis, to really begin to appreciate what now means. Because now doesn't exist unless we exist. We're the ones that know the immediacy of this moment. We're the ones that can make that separate or distinguishable through our attention. We're the ones that can learn to move into alignment with that principle and make it real for ourselves. This requires a quality of authority that can surrender, that can choose to be willing rather than to listen to the unwillingness, rather than to validate and act on the unwillingness, to choose to become foolish, to step beyond what the boundaries of what we've allowed, motivated by the divine love itself as it seeks to expand in us and in our life. All right, honey.
Okay. We are all divine in essence, and as such can recognize and experience this fire of the heart. Understanding this state of being, finding it in ourself, and learning to live and act in it is itself the way we become established in this divine state. This is the purpose of this program, Fire and Heart.
There you have it. So be it. Right? So be it. Let this be so. Let this be what happens. Let it be made real. As it is right now, this moment, let this be real. It is my wish for all of you, and I invite you to have that same wish for yourselves. Okay, so that's our entering into the doorway of what we're speaking of. So what we're now going to do is actually act on it. We're going to sit in silence and stillness.
For 40 minutes,
She said it, 40 minutes, the timekeeper.
I am.
And let experience what may ever shown up for you and whatever may show up with you as you sit there in your body, in the presence of your own embodiment and the field of your own experience and in the field of your own awareness, and attend to what arises. The more you attend to what arises in any of the domains that we just spoke of, the more you can begin to tangibly feel it in your body. The more you can begin to sense the response that's in your embodiment to this revelation. And that attending to it is what empowers it, is what makes it more real for you. So we're going to spend 40 minutes or so making this real in your own experience, and to let what has been revealed here to sink in. Put your mind on the shelf. Don't try to think any of this. Just be where you are in your embodiment. Be aware of your breath. Be connected to your body, to your feet.
So before we get started, I just want to acknowledge those of you who are on the talks only on Crowdcast. Kathy, how many do we have today?
20.
We have 20 people right now on Crowdcast. We also, I'm assuming, have some people from Facebook and YouTube. So what?
10 each.
10 each. So we just want to welcome you. Even though we can't see you, we know you're there. Thanks.
Okay. So this invite is for
Well, the
all.
invitation is for all.
If it's happening in this moment or it's happening as you're listening to this in the future.
And we welcome you to come back from at another time. So,
Okay. And go. All right. Become aware of your body. Become aware of your breath. Sitting where you are sitting. Feel your body sitting. The sensation, the pressure, the energy, the fire, whatever is there, let it sink in deep into your body, deep into the fabric of the substance of your embodiment. Become aware of your legs, the front, the sides, the back of your legs, your feet. Become aware of your belly, the sides of your belly, the back of your belly. Become aware of your heart, your chest, the shoulders, the back of your chest, behind the heart. Become aware of your arms and your hands, of your neck, the back of your head, the sides of your head, your face, the top of your head. Now be aware of the whole body, all of it. And be right there with yourself. Inward deeply. So stay sitting, let this sink in, at least 10 or 15 minutes. The program has begun.